Clemson goes up to Notre Dame on Saturday night, 7:30. You can find it on NBC or Peacock. Check your local listings. I'm Brian Knight. I am not Bobby Durkins. And because I'm not Bobby Durkins on here, if you're new here, most likely you are, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications and pass it along to anyone who likes to talk Clemson football. In this case, Notre Dame football or college football, or just absolutely hates my guts. And you just want to, I don't know, let me know about it. But I do appreciate it. Subscribing is free, so you just hit a button. How much easier is that? I'm going to take some water because I need it to talk about this game. The last time Clemson played Notre Dame was actually in the ACC Championship when Notre Dame joined the ACC during the 2020 season with everything crazy stuff that was going on. Clemson won that game pretty decidedly, but before that was a game up in South Bend where DJ actually had to take the place of Trevor Lawrence. And for Notre Dame fans, they remember that game because they beat Clemson. Clemson remembers that game because DJ threw for more yardage against Notre Dame than Notre Dame in the history of their incredible football tradition. Of all the great quarterbacks they've played against, he threw for more yards against them in that game than all those other great players that they played against. And then the 2021 season happened. DJ did not look good at all, was having a lot of struggles. And then this year, DJ, up until the last game, has been playing quite well. He just kind of had an off game against Syracuse. And now if you're a Clemson fan, you're kind of like, oh no, is the wheels coming off? I've even had this question, if can DJ be fixed again? Because a lot of people says Georgia broke him, and now they said he got fixed, and now he's not fixed. It's crazy. So if you're a Notre Dame fan and you're watching this, you're probably thinking, what is going on with him? There's a lot going on with Clemson right now, but our sights is on Notre Dame. So for my Clemson fans who is watching this, let's talk a little bit about Notre Dame. This year started off new year. Marcus Freeman, the new head coach, he did coach in the Fiesta Bowl. They were doing great in the Fiesta Bowl. Man, they were really tearing it up. I think they were playing Okie State, and then they blew it. They lost the game. Well, okay, it was one game. They had to open up the season with Ohio State in Columbus. They had their starting quarterback, Buckner, and they lost 21-10, but everybody was like, okay, it's Ohio State. And if you watch that game, Notre Dame actually had a chance to win it. Actually could have easily won the game. So it's like, wow, this is man, they're doing great. Then they go back to South Bend, and Buckner gets hurt. From what I can remember, he got hurt in that game. And, I mean, if you look at the numbers, he was just one of those guys that just everything ran through him. They lost to Marshall, and everybody thought, okay, Marshall's amazing. Marshall's going to be great. That was the same week that App State beat Texas A&M at A&M. And there was one other big game that was won by a Sun Belt team. But anyway, everybody thought, well, man, Marshall's going to be – well, Marshall has turned out to be an okay football team. They're not great. They're not bad, but they're okay. Then Notre Dame went on a 3-game win streak. California, they kind of struggled in that game, but they still beat California to finally get that first win. Then they went to North Carolina, and North Carolina has only lost one ball game all year, and it was to Notre Dame. That was in Chapel Hill. So it's like, oh, man, things are picking up. Then Notre Dame plays a pretty good BYU team at the time, which we're finding out BYU is just falling apart. Probably some injuries. I don't know. But they won the game 28-20. That was played in Las Vegas at that incredible Raiders Stadium. And it looked like Clemson, Notre Dame was finally getting a build-up. The Irish was, they were getting their footing. And then they lose to Stanford. A Stanford team that, from my recollection, is like 3-5 right now. One of their quality wins was Colgate. You really don't understand what went on there. But, hey, crap happens, and then you go from there. Now, they moved on and played UNLV. They beat UNLV, and then last week they went to Syracuse, and they beat Syracuse by 17 points. There's a lot of talk about their performance against Syracuse versus Clemson's performance with Syracuse, and we can kind of dive into that in just a moment. But Let's talk about Notre Dame. Some of the key players for them at the beginning of the season. I think it's Tyler Buckner is his name. He was, yes, Tyler Buckner. He was the starting quarterback for Notre Dame. The guy was shifty. The guy could throw. He was, they really felt comfortable with him. If you go back and watch how he played against Ohio State, he's a very good, talented player. Problem is he got injured, as I said, in that Marshall game, and then they had to bring Drew Pine in, and he had to get his footing up under him. He's done pretty well, except for that Stanford game. I mean, he has overall done pretty well, but that is really kind of the name to know a quarterback for them, and they've had injuries on and off during this entire season. Michael Mayer is a name that even if you just loosely follow college football, you know Michael Mayer because he is arguably one of the best, if not the best, tight end in the country. I know Georgia fans are going to have to say a little something about Bowers. He plays for them. He was incredible. But Michael Mayer he's just another one of those big tight ends that's going to come out of Notre Dame, and you know that he's going to do very well in the big leagues. So yeah, it's crazy kind of looking at their team. I will tell you this, that I have not done as much research on their rush. I see this guy Estime. Forgive me if I mispronounce that, but Clemson has a ton of players on their team who, I mean, sometimes it's almost like you're speaking. I don't know. It's crazy. It was just like some of our players love them to death. It's like someone went to the alphabet and just randomly pulled letters and said, that's his name. But so I'm not taking a shot at him here or even them, but I understand mispronounce names. But he's been playing for them. Well, Aldrich, I think is his first name. Kid can play. I know Tyree was playing for them. I'm not seeing him as much in the stats. I tried to find out if he was injured. So if Notre Dame fans, if you want to throw in a little something down there and let me know, what's going on with Tyree and if how he's doing, how he's playing, and if he's just injured out for the season. I really couldn't find too much, but I admit I did not do a ton of digging on that. But he's definitely a big name. Coming into this game, let's talk a little bit about the stats that's being put up by both teams. Both teams' schedule has been decently challenging for them. I would say that obviously having Ohio State as the very first game, Notre Dame has had right off the bat a more challenging schedule than Clemson, especially having to play against Syracuse. They played against North Carolina. They played against Ohio State, as I said just a second ago. And the interesting thing about that is that other than the Ohio State loss, the hiccups hasn't been against really good football teams. The hiccup has been against Stanford, and it's been against Marshall, both teams that are, not that good. And it's very questionable what's going on there, because it shows you that they can go out and they've won at Syracuse and at North Carolina. And as I said, they played really well at Ohio State. You just have to wonder that if they're playing at home, normally at home is like your strong spot. You question yourself if this is not their Achilles heel playing in South Bend. I know that sounds silly. Look at their record. So it's interesting to say the least. A couple of numbers that you want to throw out there for you. Clemson at this point, Clemson's averaging about 421 yards per game on the offensive side. Notre Dame's averaging about 383. Clemson's allowing only about 332 yards total on the defensive side of the ball, and Notre Dame's averaging about 334. So those numbers are extremely similar. You do have to give hats off to Notre Dame that their numbers include games against Syracuse, North Carolina, and Ohio State. But at the same time, I mean, they've blown it against two teams that Marshall has turned out to be subpar. BYU has turned out to be subpar. I know they won that game, but that seemed like it was a really big game, and then losing to Stanford just doesn't make sense. But things happen. Let's go to the points per game. Clemson's averaging about 37 points per game while allowing only 19.9 points, so basically 20 points. Notre Dame is averaging 28 points per game, and they're allowing about 22 on the defensive side of the ball. So Clemson's more stingy on the rushing yards. Clemson's only allowing about 88 yards on the ground. Notre Dame's allowing about 129. They're a little more stingy on the passing side of the ball. So Clemson giving up about 244 in the air as to Notre Dame about 204. So what do we have leading into this game? So the big question to me obviously lies on DJ. What is DJ going to do after the last game? Now, for you Notre Dame fans, Clemson had the week off. They were off after that very close, almost a loss on homecoming to Syracuse, and then you turn around and you beat the crap out of them by 17 points. So let's talk about that game, and let's talk about what happened. Okay, so give you a little argument from both sides. Notre Dame's going to say, hey, we just went in there, we played tough against Syracuse, and we took care of them. Clemson fans are going to say, yeah, but if you look at the statistics, like out of the past 8 times that we have played, counting this year, played Syracuse, the following game, out of those 2 out of 8 times, they've only won 2 of those. 2 out of 8 times has Syracuse won a game after they played Clemson, meaning Clemson beats them up pretty bad, even though they may, play really close with Clemson. Dino Babers always comes in with a good game plan against Clemson, whether it's at home or whether it's in Death Valley. And so it really doesn't matter. So Clemson Syracuse has this thing going on. I mean, as a Tiger fan, it makes me really frustrated because I have respect for Syracuse, especially this year's team, but at the same time, I'm not blown away by their performance. I'm not looking at them going, wow, what an incredible team. These guys should be in the playoff discussion. So why will we have those problems against them? So, and I mean, the year we won the national championship with Trevor, he got knocked out of the game. And the truth is, I mean, we struggled then. And so it's really, really interesting game. So DJ, everybody wants to talk about DJ, and so I'll take this from Tyler, and I see one from Parker Henderson here. So Tyler says, we struggle with Q's and Notre Dame smacked them. I'll say, do you think DJ will have it cleaned up, have a great day, man? I hope you have a good one too, Tyler. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And I think I can answer both these questions together. Parker Henderson, hey, buddy, my old friend from Atlanta. We had 4 turnovers, and 3 of them were going to result in a touchdown. If we would have had ball security and smart throws for an ugly game, it could have been a similar score to how Notre Dame beat the Qs. And you're right. Okay, so let's talk about that. Ball security, ball security, ball security. And for my Notre Dame viewers here, Clemson calls November their championship mode. Like yesterday on social media, it was exploding everywhere that it's November 1st, we're entering championship mode. And what that means is, we're focused on getting to the college football playoff and winning the whole thing. And that's great. That's a fantastic mantra to have. Here's the problem. Saying it and doing it is 2 different things. Yes, Sweeney has done it more than almost anybody other than Nick Saban and a few others in history. So he's well versed there. What that championship mode is going to have to be, let's start with DJ. DJ cannot turn over the ball. DJ's been very good with ball security this year. He's taking care of the ball. So that answers both questions. That had DJ not turned over the ball 3 times, one of those, for you Notre Dame fans who didn't see the Clemson-Syracuse game, Clemson got down to about the 9 or 10 yard line. It was the 10-yard line of Syracuse. They were moving the ball at will. Clemson runs a mesh play, RPO, and Moffitt didn't know that DJ was pulling the ball or wasn't pulling the ball. Anyway, the ball ends up on the ground. Syracuse picks it up, runs it back 90 yards for a touchdown. DJ also threw 2 interceptions in that ball game. Leading up to that, DJ only had thrown 2 interceptions all season. So all season, and one of those was a tip pass that got intercepted. So it's kind of like one true interception. But he goes into the Syracuse game and throws 2 interceptions. It turns over the ball, puts it on the ground, they run it back for a touchdown. I agree with you, Parker. I mean, that very much could have been a Notre Dame Syracuse score for Clemson, winning by 17 versus having to scrounge out a 6-point win at the end of the ball game. But that's the point. We have to clean that up. Clemson has to clean that up. Clemson has to pull it together. They cannot do this in championship mode. They're pretty much guaranteed a spot in the ACC Championship at this time. But the goal for Clemson is the college football playoff and to win the thing. And when I saw the college football playoff polls, which, by the way, I just put out a video today, my reaction and talking about the first college football playoff poll, go check it out and share it with your friends, share it on your your Facebook boards or whatever that you're friends with, because I like to think some good points on it. Tennessee's playing great ball. Georgia, they're Georgia. I mean, Ohio State, they're trying to get there. Alabama is not out of the picture. If anybody thinks they're out of the picture, you must be smoking fentanyl-laced crack. I don't know. But the point here is that Clemson, here's where they need to transition. Clemson needs to transition to the place to where they are taking care of the football and they are putting teams away. On paper, Clemson playing Notre Dame at Notre Dame, even though it's at Notre Dame, you look at their 5-3 record, you see that they come in and they play up for big teams. They go away and they beat at North Carolina. They beat at Syracuse. They played great with Ohio State. That score of 21-10 does not give that game justice of how well Notre Dame played. But the problem here is that Clemson has to realize that Notre Dame's going to play up for this. They're going to play up for this, and they are looking for anything to scratch at. So what DJ needs to do, first of all, they need to make him comfortable, Tyler. They need to make him comfortable again. They need to give him some confidence throws. And I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not just talking about the quick pass out to the right or quick left or quick slant. I believe that they should give him some shots down the field, good shots, give him some solid protection. The offensive line has cleaned it up a little bit. But I would give him some shots down the field, some good throws down the field to a Bo Collins or Antonio Williams. Give him some shots that says, hey, man, we trust you throwing the ball downfield. Okay? I think sometimes we try to build confidence in just throwing the ball to the right or to the left real quick. Sometimes it's good to look at your quarterback and say, hey, man, I know what happened last game. We learned from it. We went over film. We've had good practice. You know what we're going to do? You have some really good games before that, okay? We're going to throw the ball downfield. And you're giving him the wink that we trust you. We trust you in making the decision downfield. We also give you the decision to check down. You have to learn from the past, but you can't live in the past. You can't disregard the past, but you just learn from it and you move on. And that's what I would do. So I would look at getting the ball downfield, even if it's incomplete, just to give him the wink of, hey, we trust you. We trust you. When I see that Notre Dame is allowing the yardage on the ground that they've allowed, obviously we're going to pound away with them with Shipley and Maffa. And I would limit running DJ on this. I really don't like watching him run the ball as much. I'm not a big fan of that. But you have to respect Clemson's running ability and their tight ends. We have 2 fantastic tight ends, and they're big. I mean, 6'6", 6'7". I mean, these guys are big. So you're throwing the ball downfield to Davis Allen and Jake Brenningstool, and don't forsake that. don't try to live in fear of the last game. And that's how you're going to clear it up. You're going to address it during the bye week. You're going to address it leading up to this game. And you're going to say, okay, we've learned that was a bad game. And then proceed as though, not that it didn't happen, but it was one game. And we move on. That's how we clean it up. Once again, if for some reason DJ is just off or something has happened and we don't know, we do know, and we don't know what's happened. We do know that we have a more than capable 5-star dual threat quarterback sitting behind him. And Cade, nobody has really any film on him. So, I mean, he's an open book. Now, do you want him thrown into this scenario? No, but at the same time, he's that good. And he has a lot of talent around him. The coaches will make sure he's comfortable. And we saw what he did when he took over in the Syracuse game. So, Clemson, as far as paying attention to Notre Dame and what they're doing, Michael Mayer is their top receiver, and he's. I mean, I think if anybody wants a top-notch tight end on an NFL football team, Michael Mayer's the first guy they're going to think of. I know Bowser down at Georgia is definitely going to get nods, and he's talented, but Michael Mayer is just the prototype, my friend. I mean, he's just, and so what Clemson needs to do there is they really need to lock down on him. And one of my Notre Dame followers who was actually on the other video said, if Clemson will bracket him, y'all win the ball game. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, you see this big giant guy running down the field who can catch everything that's thrown up to him. You're going to have to get physical with him. But fortunately, we do have the physicality on the defensive side of the ball to not only man up with him and to be really aggressive with him. We also have the strategist in Wes Goodwin to make the proper adjustments. And that's one of the really big keys that I see with Wes Goodwin that makes me keep being a fan of him. For all the Notre Dame fans who hasn't seen my other videos on this, during the Clemson-Syracuse game, I was screaming at the TV because Schrader kept pulling the football. And in the first half, it's just like they would not realize, hey, this guy is going to continue to pull the football. And I know what they were worried about. They were worried about what may happen if he hands the ball off or quickly throws it. It was like, this guy, y'all are playing what might happen versus what is happening. This guy's pulling the football every time. Clemson made the adjustments in the second half. For anybody who's not paying attention, or maybe you don't know this, Syracuse didn't score a point on us in the second half. And yes, I know I say us like I'm out there on the field. Look, I've been pulling for this team for many years. I paid a lot of money to go see them play football. I watch them play all the time, and I keep up with the team. I think they can take me saying we. But I know that's a pet peeve for some people, but I'm sorry. The problem that Clemson could face is if Notre Dame comes out and they're on their A game and Clemson is just kind of blah. But I really don't see that with this being a bye week. I think the bye week is going to play in our favor. Now, let's be honest with ourselves here. To see that the line is only 3.5 points in favor of Clemson is quite interesting. The spread for this is the over-under is 44 points. A lot of people think this is going to be a back-and-forth game, but in a really defensive type of battle, and I could see that. I could definitely see that. What do I think the keys of the game? And what's up, Danny D-Rock Mahaffey? Hope you're doing well, man. So if I'm Notre Dame, what do I do? You've already had to make a lot of changes this season. If I'm Notre Dame, I'll look at myself and I say, I have good news. Well, what's that good news, Notre Dame? The good news is when we've had to play top-notch talent, we've only lost one ball game, and that was at their house, first game of the year, and definitely could have won that ball game. That's good. We went to North Carolina and won. That's good. We went to Syracuse and just won. That's good. That's great. Hopefully Clemson doesn't come in and play you like Stanford did, because that's still a win for Clemson. the good news for Notre Dame is that y'all have been playing great against really good football teams. The only offset here is that this game is at home, and y'all been doing way better away from with good quality teams. You've been doing way better away from South Bend, which is just totally takes the logic of home field advantage and just the ABCs of football and chunks it out the window, because normally going to someone's house and playing them is really, really difficult. And in this scenario, you guys done better on the road. So I'll stop beating that drum and get to the point. If I am Notre Dame, I do what I do well. I don't get in a frenzy against Clemson. I don't let and this is well easier said than done, because Clemson's defensive line has so much depth on it and so much talent, it's ridiculous. And Clemson fan or not, I mean, we have one of the top linebackers in the country staring you down every flipping play. Our line is big. They're aggressive. And then they shuttle someone out and bring in another guy who's, second, third round in the NFL draft. And he's going to come in, he's going to line up, and he's sitting on the bench, or he's having to split time. What I would do is I would try to attack our secondary early on and see if they're on their A game. That's what I would do. I would really try to do that. And running the ball for the most part Clemson has not been intimidated by anybody running the ball as far as a running back. If Clemson has had any issues, it's them trying to play the RPO too much, focusing on the handoff instead of the pull. So Pine, if I'm Pine, I might try to, if y'all go that route with him, I might try to run him some. I mean, I know that he's not some great runner here, but I mean, I'm looking at his attempts and so on. So you might want to kind of pull the ball a few times and see if Clemson bites. At the same time, that might be a great way to get your quarterback injured. But just trying to straight up line up and hand off the ball with Astam, please forgive me again. I'm not saying that it's out of the question, but I am saying that Clemson's defensive front and their linebackers are really, really good. So you might have to get a little creative, because if you line up nose to nose with them, no matter, you always have a great line, you always have great players on your offensive line. The truth is that Clemson's defensive front, their front seven is just fantastic. And I would try to test out their wide receiver or their secondary early on. I would go for that. That's what I would do. I mean, most people don't think that you're going to win this ball game, so why not come in and throw some stuff that's unexpected at them? If I'm the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to try to see if DJ had one ball game or if everything's fell apart for him. And what I would do is I would stack the box on him. I'd stack the box on him. They're going to hand off to Shipley and Maffa. And, they're going to run RPO with DJ. And what I would do is I would make him have to pull the ball and run it himself, because it's easier to catch DJ than it is to catch Shipley or Maffa. So that's what I would do on the defensive side of the ball. And I would make him throw the ball. I would go back to what I would say to you, what I'd say to a team earlier in the season before DJ really showed that he had really cleaned it up. And I would definitely make him prove himself, show him a disrespect, kind of put it on his shoulders that, hey, we believe you fell apart. We feel like Syracuse actually has the winning game plan against you. And I mean, now, granted, we run a different defense than Syracuse. But my point is tell them we don't believe you're going to throw the ball downfield by stacking the box. Now, that could be to your death. He could come out there and sling the rock all over you. But, folks, you have to be decisive. If you're playing a really good team and you've lost two games to subpar talent, a lot of people aren't expecting you to come out and do a lot of good things. And this is a big game for Notre Dame. It's a big game for Clemson, because, we have, 4 games left? And so this is a big deal. So if I'm Notre Dame, I am going to kind of disrespect DJ, try to get into his psyche. Hey man, we don't respect you. We think that we've got you here. We know we've got to worry about these running backs. We know we do. We know that they're going to come out there. And the only thing about rolling that dice once again is he might come out and throw for another 400 on you, and you've lost. And then they just go back to the running game and finishes you off. But I think that Notre Dame is at a different place than Clemson is. Clemson is trying to go for perfection. They're trying to get into the college football playoff. They have higher goals right now. Notre Dame, what would be a great kind of Band-Aid on the wound this season, and actually kind of fit the storyline is we can beat good teams. It's just we play down when we play terrible talent. We play Stanford and lose. We play Marshall and they're an okay team and we lose. But if we play Ohio State or North Carolina or Syracuse, that's a different story. Now we're going to bring our A game. So that's what I'm seeing as a Clemson fan. Clemson has to be careful on this game. They cannot get cocky, but they also cannot live in the Syracuse game. The game is over. It's done. You hadn't played that poorly all season long. So if I'm Clemson, I come out, take care of the ball, get DJ comfortable, get him going downfield. If I'm Clemson, or taking some shots downfield, I think Clemson needs to take more shots downfield. I understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, blah, blah, blah. But you have some home run threats. If you can hit the ball out of the park and go ahead and put the game away, put it away and get the starters off the field. Now, if the defense is up for it, of course, we're going to have to make some changes here. On Clemson's defense, I agree 100%. Bracket, take away Mayer. Buckner has not played a team like Clemson all season long. He has not. Pine, forgive me. Pine has not played a team like Clemson all season long. Clemson's defense, everybody talks about Clemson's, the Clemson not looking as dominant, and a lot of that goes to the offense. And then they have to play our defense, and it's ridiculous. The defense is fantastic. So if I'm Clemson, I take away Mayer and I continue to bring heat on Pine. And, I think that Clemson can do quite well there. Once again, Notre Dame, some quick players, but take some shots downfield. If you're going to line up, go nose to nose with us, you better be up for the charge because that front seven is really good. But Notre Dame, I would take some shots downfield and then cleverly mix in some runs if you can get Clemson off balance with the pass. On Clemson's or Notre Dame's defense, as I said, put the game on DJ's shoulders, try to intimidate him, try to get him in the head, try to get in his head saying, hey man, we're worried about your running backs, but we believe that you fell apart. Because I think that if you try to play the run pass game, I think you're going to fail miserably, because one of the things that Clemson's really good at, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is they wear you down. 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 All of a sudden, you're like, man, this is, even sometimes with a play calling, I'm kind of bored, and then suddenly it's like big play, big play, big play. It's because they've wore down their opponent. As I said, this is a 3.5 point favorite in Clemson's favor. So really, to say it's anybody's game in some way. We have over under about 44 points right now. I'm going to call Clemson wins this ball game. This is going to be a little more conservative here, but I think the Clemson is definitely going to win the ball game somewhere in the 24 to 13 range, 24. Somewhere in the 24-13, 24-10 range. We might see 24-17 given. Now, Big Mick here. What's up, man? Big Mick says 42-19, Clemson wins the ballgame. I do think that if Clemson comes in and that was just a bad game by DJ, to have their mind focused, I think that could be possible. But Notre Dame, I think, really, really gets fired up for the big games this season. That's their trend. They get really fired up for the big games, and it's the small games they don't worry about. So we'll see. But I'm calling somewhere in the 24-10, 24-17 range. Clemson wins a ball game, and we will see what happens. Well, hey, listen, if you are a part of any sports groups, Facebook groups, pass it along. Even if you're not a Clemson fan, pass it along. One of the things I like to talk about versus the guys on TV, and there's some good guys on TV, but a lot of them are just terrible these days, because they're trying to sell subscriptions and keep fan bases engaged. That really, we all know that those fan bases have absolutely no chance of their team getting a college football playoff, or they're not doing well. But I like to just tell the truth. And you would find out that a lot of Clemson, they're not a lot, but there are Clemson fans who cannot stand me. And I thought it was just Bobby Durkins that they didn't like because the stupidity. But there's a lot of Clemson fans who doesn't like me because I just don't see everything with orange colored glasses. Lying to yourself and telling yourself that your team is better than they are, or that, things are, well, Dabo's just going to fix it. I mean, that doesn't help anybody, and it's actually more interesting to tell the truth, especially when people lies. And Jonathan Benton, I have one last request. Jonathan Benton said, I think we need to all give 2 predictions. One if we get good DJ, another if we get bad DJ. Good DJ, and they open up the playbook. And he's throwing like a machine. Wide receivers are playing well. That 42-19, I could see that happening. Yeah. Bad DJ comes out, plays a game like he did against Syracuse. He gets benched again, and we possibly lose the game somewhere to the tune of 27-24, 27-21. That's what I would see. But and the thing is, you got to think Clemson's defense only allowed 14 points against Syracuse. That touchdown for the 21 was that return by Syracuse defense. So Clemson's defense was out on the field a lot. I just think that, Clemson's defense would have to be out on the field a lot for Notre Dame to get 27 points, somewhere in there. That would be my bad. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to go. I'm about to lose my voice. I've done 2 videos so far. Pass this along to any Facebook groups or sports groups that you're part of. Spread the word, because, look, I love talking sports. And I love telling the truth. I love telling the truth about my teams. And, of course, I'm going to be biased towards my team, but I really, really just enjoy it, because when I turn on television and I see these people who are paid to talk a lot about football, and it's sometimes just how terrible they are at it, I'm like, man, I could do that, But anyway, all right. I'm Brian Knight. I'm not Bobby Durkins. Check out the Bobby Durkins channel if you've never checked it out. But I warn you, you will be surprised if you're not familiar with Bobby, and if you are, proceed at your own caution. Take care and go Tigers.